Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of our
Hare
YouTube live
Krishna.
listeners, our Facebook listeners, and our wonderful listeners over Zoom. Welcome to all of you. Hare Krishna. Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om
Timirandhasya
Jnanatimirandhasya
Jnananjana
Jnananjana
Shalakaya
Shalakaya
Chakshurunmilitam
Chakshurunmilitam
Yena
Yena
Tasmai
Tasmai
Shri
Shri
Gurave
Gurave
Namaha
Namaha.
Nama Om
Namo
Vishnu
Vishnu
Padaya
Padaya
Krishna
Krishna
Preshtaya
Preshtaya
Bhutale
Bhutale
Srimate
Srimate
Radhanatha
Radhimata
Swami
Swami
Niti
Niti
Namine
Namine
Nama Om
Namastam
Vishnu
Vishnu
Padaya
Padaya
Krishna
Krishna
Preshtaya
Preshtaya
Bhutale
Bhutale
Srimate
Srimate
Jayapataka
Jayapataka
Swami
Swami
Niti
Niti
Namine
Namine
Namacharya
Namacharya
Padaya
Padaya
Nitai
Nitai
Kripa
Kripa
Pradayine
Pradayine
Gaurakatha
Gaurakatha Dhamadaya
Dhamadaya
Nagaragrama
Garagramatatarine
Tarine
Nama
Nama
Om
Om
Vishnu
Vishnu
Padaya
Padaya
Krishna
Krishna
Preshtaya
Preshtaya
Bhutale
Bhutale
Srimate
Srimate
Bhakti
Bhaktivedanta
Vedanta Swami
Swami
Niti
Niti Namine
Namine Namaste
Namaste
Saraswati
Saraswati
Deve
Deve Gauravani
Gauravani Pracharine
Pracharine
Nirvishesha
Nirvishesha
Shunyavadi
Shunyavadi
Paschatya
Paschatya
Deshatarine
Deshatarine
Jaya
Jaya
Shri
Shri
Krishna
Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri
Shri
Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shrivasadi
Srivasadi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda
Vrinda
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Hare
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 Hare Rama
Rama Hare
Hare Rama
Rama Rama
Rama
Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to session 4 of the Gita Shri Gita Rahasya.
So, before we move forward, we would like to congratulate all of our quiz participants from yesterday's session from YouTube. We'd like to congratulate Lakshmi Priya Mataji from Singapore, Sharmila S. Bhakta, Ishwari Radha Mataji from Florida, Rekha Mataji, Kaveri Sham Mataji, Sri Lekha, Hari Krishna Maddali Prabhu, Barshana Chitra Mataji, and Sham Priya Mataji. From Facebook, we'd like to congratulate Rajeshwari Mataji, Anju Agarwalji, Nityaradha Mataji from Chennai, Meena Mataji, Ranjani Gopika Mataji, and Mother Flavier from Atlanta. Thank you so much for your beautiful participation and congratulations for participating in the quiz so wonderfully. Thank you.
So far we have covered chapter 4, and thank you for joining us in this journey of exploring and relishing the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the secrets, the mysteries, the Rahasya of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So today we start with chapter 5. We'll cover chapter 5 and 6. But before that, let's see what's the connection between chapter 4 and chapter 5 that we are going to start right now. Now, chapter 2, let's recap a little bit. Chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, it gives us the preliminary knowledge of the soul and how the soul gets entangled in the material body. Then Krishna tells about bhakti yoga, or sorry, buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga is the process to get out of this entanglement. Then chapter 3, Arjuna expresses doubt. Buddhi yoga or karma yoga? What are you trying? You're asking me to fight or you're asking me to do buddhi yoga? And then Krishna explains that person who is on the platform of knowledge, he no longer has any duties to perform. And then talks about chapter 4, transcendental knowledge. The Lord is telling Arjuna about different kinds of sacrificial work. All these different sacrifices, they culminate in knowledge. Then Krishna glorifies jnana and the famous verse where he talks about try to see action in inaction and inaction in action. And then Krishna glorifies jnana, renunciation. But again, As Arjuna thinks he's starting to get it, that okay, it's all about transcendental knowledge, Krishna tells him, fight. That's how chapter 5 ends. And Arjuna is like, whoa, 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 wait, wait, wait. Let me recap what I understood. So far, Arjuna thinks renunciation in knowledge means cessation of work. Then he says, if one performs work in devotional service, then how can work be stopped? Work and renunciation, they seem to be very incompatible to Arjuna at this point of time. Then Arjuna, actually, his cause of confusion at the end of chapter 4 is work in full knowledge is non-reactive, and so it is same as inaction, which means he understands that every action has a reaction. But if we work in knowledge, there is no reaction, which means we don't do any action, because how can we not have any reaction if we do some action? So he thinks, okay, I need to perform some work which has no reaction, which means I shouldn't perform anything. If I don't do anything, I won't get any reaction. That's what he thinks. But then he's confused. Then why are you telling me to act when you are telling me if I don't act, I won't get any reaction? But that's the folly in his understanding. And in this chapter, Krishna will explain further. So Arjuna asks the same question again that he asked in the 3rd chapter. That's the difference between jnana, buddhi yoga, and work. Similarly, he's asking the same thing, that which is better, work in devotion or renunciation work? That's how chapter 5 starts.
You see, here in these chapters, we must understand. In the preliminary chapters, Arjuna, just like in chapter 1, Arjuna was so confused. He was giving so many arguments, so many reasonings why he should not fight. So he's trying to validate, his understanding that, oh, is Krishna now saying, okay, it's okay for me to renounce all this war and just go to the forest and be like a beggar and not engage in this ghastly warfare? I don't want to. So we must understand that this is the anusmarana that we must need to have. The anusmarana means that we need to understand what is the state of mind of Arjuna at this point. So Arjuna is just not convinced. Arjuna is still thinking that maybe Krishna is going to validate his understanding, his arguments that he was giving for not to fight. So that's why Arjuna is asking these questions again and again and yet again. So this brings us to the beginning of chapter 5. May we have the presentation, please? The PPT.
As the presentation is coming up, just think about Krishna. Krishna is so patient. Arjuna is again and again asking the same question. Instead of saying, I just told you. I just told you in the beginning of chapter 3. You're again asking the same question. I'm done. I'm just totally done with you. No. This is in the middle of the battlefield. Remember, the conch shells have blown. Both the armies are ready. And Arjuna is asking the same question again and again. Krishna would be like, hey, I can explain to you, but look, we are ready for the battlefield. But Krishna is so calm, so patient, as if he has all the time in the world. And this entire Bhagavad Gita, he speaks in 45 minutes. And the glory of Arjuna is he understands it in 45 minutes. 45 minutes, both the armies waited for Krishna to explain to Arjuna. So then we go to the breakdown of chapter 5. It's under 5 sections. 6 sections, actually. Section 1 talks about Nishkama Karma Yoga, how Nishkam Karma Yoga is easier than renouncing work. Because Arjuna is saying, yeah, I want to renounce. Krishna is saying, better than renouncing, do Nishkam Karma Yoga. Because Krishna is saying both are equal in the sense that both are means to the same goal. But working with detachment is superior than just renouncing it. Then he says, section 2, where he says how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is uh, when one's performing the Nishkam Karma Yoga, one should not identify with this body, nor with the activity, but he should still perform action in a detached way. He knows, I'm not the controller, Krishna is the controller. I'm not the enjoyer, Krishna is the enjoyer. And then when we act in that detached way, there's no reaction. Then, section 3, Krishna talks about the platform of knowledge. If we are not acting, then who is acting? If we are not the doer, who is the doer? So there are three doers that Krishna explains. There is doer number one is the living being who knows that the bodily activities are automatically carried out by the modes of nature. Doer number two is the super soul, because the activity man proposes, God disposes. I can desire to lift my hand, but if the super soul does not sanction that, then the person cannot lift the hand. And then doer number three is one, the soul who actually attains enlightenment through that knowledge of how these three things work. Then section 4 is talks about liberation, how we can attain liberation by focusing on the super soul, on the Paramatma. So here, Krishna is taking him from the understanding of Brahman, that there is a force which is overpowering, to Paramatma, the super soul level right now. In fifth and sixth chapter, he's taking from Brahman to Paramatma, and then from seventh chapter onwards, he'll take him to the level of Bhagavan. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvat yad jnanam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagavan. These are the three levels. Right now, he's taking him to the Paramatma level. And then section 5 talks about liberation through Ashtanga Yoga. And this is a preview of the chapter 6. The verse 27 and 28 just give a sneak peek. I'm going to take you to Ashtanga Yoga now, where you'll understand the Paramatma. And then he ends, section 6 is just one verse, but it's the most important peace formula verse, where peace on the platform of liberation, how a person in full Krishna consciousness, he can attain liberation from the pangs of material miseries.
So, Srila Rupa Goswami, he speaks on renunciation. And it is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the nectar of devotion, that incomplete renunciation, which is called as Falgu Vairagya, means it is to renounce things that are related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, but yet with the desire for liberation. So that is called as incomplete renunciation. What is Yukta Vairagya, which is complete renunciation? Srila Rupa Goswami explains that he says that everything, the complete renunciation is that the consciousness with which we come to the understanding that everything belongs to the Lord, and he thus uses everything in the Lord's service. And he does not claim any proprietorship. I was talking to a very wonderful devotee today. Um, she's actually on the call. Mother Flavier, please pardon me for using your beautiful example, but the way you said, she sent me a beautiful message where she's saying, I live in the home of the Lord, Krishna, and he is allowing me to stay in his home. So this is perfect, Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means complete renunciation, knowing in actuality that nothing belongs, everything is the property of Krishna, and we don't claim proprietorship. We are actually living in the home of Krishna. He is the proprietor, he is the master, he is the enjoyer, and we are here just to serve him. So that was very beautiful. And that is exactly what is Yukta Vairagya, or complete renunciation. Renunciation in the actual sense that Srila Rupa Goswami talks about in the Nectar of Devotion. So these things are mentioned in the purports by Srila Prabhupada in this particular chapter.
You go
So
to the next slide.
So the next slide is comparing the soul and the super soul. As you can see in the slide, that from text 13 to 16, there is a comparison between the Atma and Paramatma, soul and super soul. So the soul is also eternal, the super soul, eternal, the soul is eternal, but it suffers when it is covered by Maya. Maya means it's covered by the external, covering of the gross body. And the super soul is blissful. It's above the three modes of material nature. The soul is cognizant of his body. And the super soul is cognizant of all bodies. The soul is atomic and the super soul is omniscient. And super soul is completely independent, completely swarat, fully independent. But the soul, because it is part and parcel of the super soul, has minute independence to desire, but its dependence upon the super soul, it is dependent upon the super soul to fulfill the desires. Just like um, an example Srila Prabhupada gave very beautifully to understand this. Say, for example, there is, a little log which is there at the center of a field, um, and then there is a goat that is tethered to that little log. So the rope that is binding the neck of the goat with that little log, the entire circumference of that rope is the way that much area that goat can cover. The goat cannot go beyond that limit, the limit of the rope, the length. But within that length, the goat is free to nibble on the grass anywhere it likes. So, this is the kind of free will that we as living entity or as the soul has. But Krishna, he is supremely independent. So, this is the kind of analogy that we need to understand, this soul and super soul difference. As you can see in the picture in the slide, that there's two birds perched on the same tree. One of the birds is enjoying the fruit of the tree. That is the soul. And the other bird is just a witness. That is the super soul. So, next slide, please. Can we have the next slide? So there are three important verses in this particular chapter, in chapter 5. This is text 18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastine Shuni Chaiva Shwapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina.
The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater.
So there's a very beautiful story told by Mother Govinda. She's proper disciple. And she tells that one day she was sitting in the garden in Los Angeles and she was chanting japa of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra along with Srila Prabhupada. There's a very beautiful garden in the temple of Los Angeles. And she was sitting there with Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada was chanting, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. She was chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And because they were in the garden, just next to Mother Govinda came a little tiny slug. Slug? A little tiny eel kind of creature.
Can we stop the PPT for a while, please?
So when the slug was there, at that time, as soon as Mother Govinda saw this little slug crawling up, she said, "Ew, slug." She She said like that. And then Srila Prabhupada, he looked at that slug and he looked at the reaction of Mother Govinda and he told her, with almost like tears in Srila Prabhupada's eyes, Srila Prabhupada said, chant to the poor creature. And that was a turning point. Mother Govinda explains that in her life, that till today, she actually goes out into the garden and chants to slugs because they cannot chant, but they can listen. The soul can listen. So this is Pandita Samadarshana, that this pure, sage, the humble sage, they see with equal vision all living entities. And they see them as Atma, as pure spirit soul, and relate to them in that way, giving them all mercy. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is 522.
Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayonaye evate adyantavanta kaunteya nate shuramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Okay, we can stop the PPT. One time there was a king, and this king, he suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and he called all his ministers. He was so confused. And as he called these ministers, all the ministers were rubbing their eyes. Yes, dear king, why did you call us in the middle of the night? He said, I saw a dream. I saw a dream. It is I'm just confused. He said, what? It's wonderful you saw a dream. What's so confusing about it? I saw a dream. In that dream, I saw that I was a butterfly. So the ministers were like, oh, that's wonderful. And as a butterfly, I was going from each flower to flower and sucking nectar. And so everyone said, this is a wonderful dream. Why are you so confused? What's the problem? The problem is that, am I the king dreaming that I was a butterfly? Or am I the butterfly dreaming that I'm the king? Who am I? Am I the king or am I the butterfly? Is this the dream? You all in the dream of the butterfly dreaming that I'm a king? And so everyone was, I think you are the king dreaming that you are the butterfly. No, no, no. How can you prove that? Prove that to me. And so everyone tried different arguments, but he gave counter arguments back. And so then a wise man entered. And this wise man, he said, I can tell you, you are neither the king dreaming you're the butterfly, nor you are the butterfly dreaming you're the king. The king was shocked. What? I'm at least one of them. He said, no. You are the soul who is in the night dreaming that he's the butterfly, and in the day dreaming that you are the king. So this understanding that I am not this body, I am the soul, and this is just a dream. And in this dream, Krishna is saying, we are dreaming that I am this body. I'm a king, or I'm a man, or I'm a woman. I'm an engineer, doctor, lawyer, janitor, whatever we are. I'm an American, I'm an Indian, so many different nationalities. But actually, we are just in that dream. Ultimately, we are the spirit soul who is dreaming in these different bodies. Therefore, Krishna says, the wise man do not delight in sense pleasure because they know it is all in a dream. We are actually still with Krishna, dreaming that we are outside. When we are actually in a dream, it seems so real. Have you ever had a dream? If someone comes in the dream and tells you this is a dream, you won't believe him or her because it seems so real. That's what it is right now. And Krishna is saying, wake up, Wake up from this dream. And how can you wake up? By restraining from senses. The more you disengage from sense gratification, the more you will wake up from the dream into the reality. But the more we engage in sense gratification, the more we will get engrossed in the dream. So, this is Krishna telling us, don't partake in the sources of misery. Next verse, can we
Next
have the
slide,
PPT?
please.
Next slide. Bhok
529, this is the last verse of this chapter.
Bhoktaram
Bhoktaram
yajna
yajna
tapasam
tapasam
sarvaloka
sarvaloka maheshwaram
maheshwaram suridam
suridam
sarvabhutanam
sarvabhutanam gyatva
gyatva
mam
mam
shantim
shantim
richati.
richati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries.
So we must understand, this is a perfect peace formula. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to this particular verse. He says that, when the people of this world will understand that there's just one proprietor, there will be no need for United Nations. They will actually unite as United Nations, people of the world, if they understand this particular verse. This is the peace formula.
And if we don't accept this, that means we are envious. And when Srila Prabhupada said that, some devotee said, I'm not envious of others. I'm not envious. I love Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said, as long as you engage in sense gratification, even a little bit, that means you are trying to say, I am the enjoyer. There can be only one enjoyer, and you are competing with Krishna as being the enjoyer. As long as we engage in sense gratification, there is a little bit of envy and competition within our mind, even though we don't realize it. So, Maya is very deep.
We
But we
can,
should understand,
we can end the PPT here. Thank you.
we should understand that Krishna is our best wisher. He's our best friend. Whatever he does, he will do for the best of our interest. Although we may not understand that it is in our best interest, but actually it is. As long as we are in the association of devotees, by their mercy, Krishna is going to take care of us. And so we should understand, we should have faith that Krishna is our benefactor, greatest friend. It's not like fair weather friends. We have different kinds of friends. Some are like Ayurvedic friends. Ayurvedic medicines, they are good for long term purification of the root cause. But for emergency, Ayurvedic medicines don't work. So similarly, Ayurvedic friends are those who do very good talk, but in emergency, they are nowhere to be found. Then there are some allopathic friends. Just like allopathic medicine, it's good for emergency, but it has a lot of side effects. Similarly, there are some friends, they'll be there for emergency, but then there are some side effects with those friends. We don't have to elaborate on that. Everyone understands. And then there are some homeopathic friends. Just like homeopathic medicine, these friends, sometimes they may be useful, sometimes they may work, sometimes they may not, but there'll be no harm. They'll not cause any harm. Sometimes they'll help, sometimes they'll not. So there are these different kinds of friends that we have in our life. But Krishna is an all-weather friend. He's a friend of all seasons, all treatments. He is Suridam Sarvadehinam. Suridam, well Ridam. From the heart, he wishes well for us.
Okay, so this now is bringing us to chapter 6, which is entitled as Dhyana Yoga. So the connection between chapter 5 and chapter 6 is described as that, Krishna, he was discussing Ashtanga Yoga and he establishes it as an impractical path. Krishna does that. And therefore, one should reject Ashtanga yoga, and favor bhakti yoga. This is exactly what Krishna says. And Ashtanga yoga was actually mentioned in the previous chapter, in chapter 5, in text 27 and 28. The translation is,
shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breath within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. This sets the scene for chapter 6, even though this is a verse from chapter 5.
so before practicing advanced stages of Ashtanga yoga, which is described, which we just talked about, um, one must one must become purified by Nishkam Karma Yoga. One must be in full, complete control of the mind. And one must be completely indifferent to and unaffected by material things, by all material things. So you can understand the prerequisites of Ashtanga Yoga are so huge. You can't even, try doing Ashtanga Yoga if we have these three limitations. So now, can we have the PowerPoint, please? This is the breakdown of chapter 6. And chapter 6 is divided into six sessions, six sections, sorry.
Section 1 talks about how do we advance in yoga through detached work. Like Nishkama Karma yogis, Ashtanga yogis, they also engage in detached work to advance. Then Krishna talks about the Yoga Rudha stage in section 2, which means even though a yogi may give up Nishkam Karma Yoga, when his mental control reaches the stage of well-wishers, treating everyone equally, well-wishers, envious, pious, everyone. This is the yoga advanced stage, Yoga Rudha stage. Then section 3 talks about further stages in the practice of yoga. Krishna describes different practices of yoga and ultimately the vision of the super soul, which is very important. Then section 4 talks about while performing Ashtanga yoga, it's so necessary to control the turbulent mind because the mind is very difficult to process. But it is essential, and you can do it by abhyasena tu konteya vairagyena cha guhyati, by constant practice and detachment. Constantly practice controlling the mind, negating the mind, and then be detached. Then section 5 talks about, okay, what if someone engages in this process and somehow is not successful? What then? Krishna says, what is the destination of the unsuccessful yogi? They either get heavenly enjoyment followed by an aristocratic birth, or they get directly a birth in a family of devotees, of transcendentalists that can bring them immediately from the path, from the place that they actually came, especially if they are more advanced. And then finally, section 6, Krishna talks about the topmost yogi. Yogis are greater than the karma yogi, jnana yogi. They are even greater than Ashtanga yogi. Because he says, of all yogis who think with full faith, always think of me, and then they render transcendental devotional service, they are the highest of all the yogis. And here he explains the yoga ladder in some sense, where all of these different paths are actually rungs in the yoga ladder, ultimate goal, bhakti yoga. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, sorry, we can stop the slideshow here. We have how Krishna explains two kinds of Ashtanga yoga. In text 3, Arurukshor Muner Yogam Karma Karanamuchyate Yoga Rudhasya Tasyaiva
Shama
Shamakaranamujyate.
For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means.
So here, Krishna is talking about, starts with the word arurukshor. Arurukshor, arurukshor is the neophyte, and arudha is the advanced. So he's talking about two levels of yoga practice. There is, in the beginning stages of Ashtanga Yoga, one must continue to perform activities and giving up the desire to enjoy the fruit. That's the Yoga Ruruksha stage, which is the beginning stage. You cultivate, you work, you cultivate detachment, but you also practice asanas. And then there is the Yoga Rudha stage. Yoga Rudha is the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga, where you've achieved freedom from all desires. You are impelling fruitive work. You retire from active duties, and then your pratyahar is very perfect, because it starts with yama, niyama, pratyahar, all these different dharana, dhyan, samadhi. When pratyahar is perfect, then in dhyana stage, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, two stages after pratyahar, your dhyana stage, you stop working and then enter into samadhi.
And there was a little joke by one devotee who said that this yoga ladder is so complicated. To reach the stage of samadhi, isn't it a much better option that we can go either to Vrindavan and to Mayapur, where there is Srila Prabhupada's Pushpa Samadhi Mandir, or there is, in Vrindavan there is Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi. So that way, when we enter into the Samadhi Mandir, we are in Samadhi. Technically speaking, we are in Samadhi. So like that. So this is just something that we need to understand.
And here he says, Krishna explains how, Prabhupada explains how there are 8 stages of Ashtanga Yoga: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. And from Pratyahar onwards, it's the Yoga Rudha stage. Okay, we can have the PPT for the next verse.
So this is the first important. Again, in this chapter 6, there are 3 important verses. So today, totally, we are going to cover only 6 important verses because that's the important verses that we have. 3 in chapter 5 and 3 in chapter 6.
So text 17.
Yuktahara
Viharasya
Yuktachetasya karmashu Yuktaswapnavabodhasya Yogo bhavati dukkhaha. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by the practice of the yoga system.
So here one should be very temperate, just like Srila Prabhupada was. He was very, very disciplined. Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all of these devotees, you see, they're so disciplined. And this is the verse: temperate in habits of eating, sleeping, working, recreation. Srila Prabhupada, he would sleep in the night just for 2-3 hours. Then he would wake up and he would start translating the books. And then whatever happens, he would go for a morning walk every day. And he would finish his rounds. In fact, he would chant 64 rounds. He asked us to chant minimum 16 rounds, but he had promised to chant 64 rounds as a sannyasi. So Prabhupada would finish 64 rounds and ask us 16 rounds. He was very, very disciplined. And therefore, one of the examples of discipline is to have the austerity of speech.
Can we stop the PPT, please?
So there is an acronym. It's think, THINK, before we speak. T in think is for truthful. Before we speak something, we should think, is it truthful? H for helpful. Whatever I'm speaking, is it helpful for the other person? Or is it just trying to uh, put arrows in person's heart? We should see helpful. I for inspiring. Whatever I'm speaking, will it inspire the other person? If it will, we should speak. But if it doesn't, why do we have to waste our time and the other person's time? N for necessary. Is it really necessary? If I don't speak this thing, if I don't say this thing, will it uh, will anyone lose anything? If not, why to speak? Why to conserve? Let's conserve our energy. And then K is for kind. When we are speaking, is my speech kind? Are these words kind words? If they satisfy these criteria, we must speak. If it is spiritually truthful, if it is spiritually helpful for someone, if it's spiritually inspiring, if it's spiritually necessary for us, and if it's spiritually kind, then we should speak. Think, Think.
So think before you speak. So this is something that we can practice. Think, Think. Think before we speak. It is said that Vidura, he was such a profound thinker and thus a very wonderful speaker, because it is said about Vidura that even every word before he would speak, he would measure in this way before he would speak. So therefore, it is very important for us that we must be, mindful of what we are speaking. Can we have the next slide, please?
And that's where control of mind also comes. If we practice, how do we control the mind? Practice and detachment. If we practice this Think, and if we practice before I speak, if I stop my mind, say, is it truthful, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? And then go slowly, steadily, the mind will automatically follow. Constant practice, it will actually follow. But initially, we have to make an attempt to always think like this.
So this is 641, the second important verse in this chapter.
Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvate sama shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga bhrashto bhijayate.
The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many births and years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy.
So this talks about, even Krishna says, well, what if I'm unsuccessful? Can we stop PPT? Thank you. What if we are unsuccessful? I'm putting so much life. I'm giving up my work. I'm giving up everything. And then I go to the jungles, Ashtanga Yogi, and then I'm not successful. I'm neither here nor there. What to do? Krishna says, don't worry. If you're unsuccessful, next life, you will start from where you began. And Krishna knows everything. One time there was a student. He was sitting in a class and he was feeling so sleepy, he just dozed off.
Right in the first bench. He was sitting in the first bench of the classroom, and under the teacher's nose, so to speak, he dozed off.
And then he started snoring. And then the teacher got annoyed. Student, what are you doing? Wake up! And the student woke up. And he was shocked and everyone was laughing. And then the teacher said, why did you sleep? What happened? What were you doing? And suddenly he prayed a little, what to do? And then he came up with something. He said, my dear teacher, your voice is so sweet. That sweetness of your voice just put me to sleep. It's so like a lullaby. Your voice is so sweet. And teacher said, oh, you think my voice is sweet? Then why others are awake? If my voice is sweet, that it puts you to sleep, then all the students should have slept. No, madam. only I was listening to your voice. None of them are listening. If they were also listening to you intently, they would also fall asleep. So, with this kind of a word jugglery, we can get out of a situation. But Krishna knows our heart. Unless we really beg and cry for mercy, we may not be successful in this life. Still, Krishna gives another chance. He knows, how sincere and insincere we are, but then he ignores our insincerity and still gives us a chance to continue from where we left off.
Can we have the next slide, please? This is the last verse of this particular chapter, sixth chapter, 6.47.
Yoginamapi sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yuktatamo mataha.
And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. So, in the purport of this particular verse, thank you so much. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada very beautifully and explains that bhakti yoga, the performance of bhakti yoga, encompasses all yogas. Just like Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example. He says, just like the analogy is given of a $100 bill. If you have a $100 bill, if we have it, then there's a $10 included in it, there's $20 included in it, there's $50 included in it, and of course we have $100. So just like a $100 bill includes 10, 20, $50 in them, similarly, the performance of bhakti yoga includes karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and of course bhakti yoga. So what is actually bhakti yoga? Let us try to understand that. This is our concluding part of this particular session. With this analogy, we will end our session. So, ABCD, yes, we learn from our childhood. In childhood, when we learn ABCD, what does it mean? A, Prabhu?
Apple,
B,
boy,
C,
cat,
D.
dog.
Okay, so ABCD stands for this in our childhood. But in our teenage years, what do you think A stands for? A would stand for Android. B would stand for Bluetooth. C would stand for chatting. And D would stand probably for drinks. So this is what ABCD is transformed in our teenage years. How about in our old age? In our old age, A stands for,
Arthritis, probably.
B stands for,
Blood pressure,
C stands for,
cholesterol,
D stands for.
diabetes.
So, old age, the definition of ABCD changes. But in Bhakti, whatever age we may be in, whatever stage of life we may be in, A, B, C, D does not change. It is the same for every living entity in Bhakti Yoga. A stands for,
Association,
B stands for,
books,
C stands for,
chanting,
and D stands for
diet,
Krishna conscious diet.
or
Prasad.
dance.
Or dance, dancing to Krishna's kirtan. So this is the ABCD of spiritual life, of bhakti yoga. And this is what Krishna is talking about, that anyone who is associating with, bhakti yogis, so that we are known by the kind of association we are keeping. If we keep association with learned scholars, we will tend to become a learned scholar. If we are keeping association with not such good class of society, we will become that. But if we want to become a devotee, we try to associate with those who are devotees. Books are the basis, Srila Prabhupada said, that we don't speak anything from our mental concoction. We do not do that. Whatever we are speaking, we substantiate our speaking from the Shastra, from the books. C is the basis of our spiritual life, which is chanting. Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is the only medicine that is recommended for this day and age in this Kali Yuga to cure the material disease that all of us are inflicted with. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Hare. And D finally for dance and diet. That along with the prescription of the medicine comes a fixed number of diet. You know, the doctor always gives medicine and a diet. So Srila Prabhupada, he has given us the medicine of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In fact, this is what even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought. Mahaprabhu, you know, one of our Vaishnava acharyas, he sings so beautifully in a bhajan. He says, Mahaprabhu was saying this, that Enechhi Shodhi Maya Nashibaro Lagi Hari
Hari Nama
Nama
Maha
Mahamantra
Mantra,
Lao
Lao
Tumi
Tumi
Mangi.
Mangi.
So, this Harinam Mahamantra, this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is this Maha Aushadhi. Aushadhi means medicine. So, Mahaprabhu has brought this medicine with him. So, we are taking this medicine, and to, fasten the process of the medicine, we take a particular diet. And when we do that, when we take a diet, then the medicine has best effect. And the diet is Krishna Prasad, mercy of Krishna, and dancing in ecstasy in kirtan. So this way we can be fixed in bhakti yoga. So with this we will end our session today, and so all of us please get ready for our exercises.
Okay, the first exercise is please write and share one thing that you found new in today's discussion.
So anyone would like to share? Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji, would you like to share?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Soumya.
I learned so many new things, Mataji. I learned ABCD in different stages of life. I learned Prabhupada, how he is simple, warm also, how he gives instructions and how we have to chant for that. I learned so many things, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you, Soumya. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Mataji, can I go?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm Shanta here.
Yes.
I am very impressed with your think, that abbreviation, that is truthful, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. It was very good, excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can I go next?
Yes, please.
In today's session, I learned the ABCD, and I also learned the meaning of think, and both of those stuff I didn't know before, so that's what I learned in today's class. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Kirti. Thank you, Kirti. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam. This is Shyampriya Devidasi.
Yes, Shamapriya Mataji.
I learned about the soul and the super soul. So, like even how the example you gave about Mother Govinda, and how Prabhupada was saying that you have to chant to the little insect, the slug. So even now, next time if I go for a walk or something, if I see a dog or any kind of insect, so I will also chant loudly. So I that is also a soul. So
Yes.
maybe he can hear the Mahamantra and get liberated. So
Jai.
that's what I learned.
Sham Priya Mataji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. I am Rajalakshmi from Chennai.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, I learned today that even after a lot of struggle, if you are not able to achieve the yoga in this birth,
you will be starting in the next birth at the same stage. You will be born in the family of devotee, or if you have not achieved something, you will be in that stage in next birth. That is an elevated stage. That one I really liked it and learned it today. And the other thing is the chanting to the insects in the garden and other souls. So that also inspired me very much, Mataji.
Jai. Thank you, Rajalakshmi Mataji. Thank you very much.
Can I speak?
Yes, who is this? Is that Garima?
Garima.
Yes, Garima.
I learned that I didn't know that Prabhupada chants 64 pounds and he's disciplined.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Garima.
Okay, so let's go to the next question.
And we thank all the devotees for giving their comments also. We have Shamala Gopika, Anjuji, Jamuna Ras Mataji, Rasmita, Flavier, thank you for your comments. Vinita Mataji, Nitya Mataji,
yes.
Thank you all so much.
Okay, so now the next is right. When did you first feel attracted to spiritual life?
First time.
You are attracted to Bhagavad Gita, you're joining this course. Somewhere you must have thought, I want to learn spiritual life. When was that? This is especially in relation to how Krishna is saying that whatever spiritual credits we get in our next life, we continue from there in this life. So if suppose we do PhD in this life, next life we'll again start from ABCD. But if we do any Krishna consciousness bhakti yoga in this life, then in the next life we start from, if we made 2% progress, we start from 2%. If we 10% progress in our previous life, we start from 10% now. That's why we see so many, there are millions of souls, only a few of you are interested in Bhagavad Gita. So please share with us, when did you first feel that attraction to spiritual life?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Mataji. I'm Shampriya Devi Dasi from USA. I wanted to share my family, my uncle and all, they were Krishna consciousness, and they would keep telling me, like they would have functions at that house and they would call me that come for the functions. I would always go and they would say, you should chant, you should stop eating onion garlic. And I'm like, oh, I'm so young and I'm not at that age to do all this. And I would never, I would just take it for granted. And, I would just go for the sake of, because they're my relatives, they're inviting me, and I would just go. And then I had one day I used to keep on going out these programs, and one day I came across the Bhagavatam. They had in their house Bhagavatam, and I was just going through it, and I saw that how Prabhupada had each and every word, how it was translated. And I used to read Bhagavad Gita, but not from Prabhupada. I used to read a different Bhagavad Gita sometimes. So then I saw, I'm like, oh, this is very nice book. I really like it, how it is explained each word to word. And I felt on keeping on reading it. So I told him, can you please get me a set of Bhagavatam? And that's how I started. So Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you. Vrindavani Mataji shares that she read the Bhagavad Gita accidentally. And Flavier says that as soon as I could read and think clearly, I could read at age 4 very well, I knew I was interested in spiritual life. No doubt you're a very special soul. So Anjuji, please, yes, you may share.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Radhe.
First of all, let me just say, when I see both of you in the matching, attire, it's so divine, it's so nice, and it just brings me a big smile, We can feel your energy, your positive vibrations, your magic aura. And actually, as was born in Vrindavan, blessed as a child only, with lot of bhakti at home, grandparents, parents, everybody. So, and I know I had gone to Janambhoomi, Krishna temple over there. And when I saw Krishna over there, and he was so beautiful, and I told my father, how can somebody be so beautiful, like, so divine? And I could not just take my eyes off. I still remember. And that's the Krishna Janamabhoomi Mandir. And then I told my father, he's so thin, I want to marry him. And where is my father burst out laughing. He says, then you have to be Meera. I remember that word of him. So I said, okay, but I don't know anything about Meera. So will you tell me? He said, yes, I will tell you everything about things. You have to do a lot of devotion, lot of bhakti, lot of this. So the bhakti was there, but the gyan was not there in my life. And then with the age, got into books, material thing, but grew up seeing all in the holidays. We have seen all this. And I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, my father had taken me and I saw Prabhupada in ISKCON.
Wow.
He had come there. It was divine. I still have a slight glimpse of it. We had gone to ISKCON temple and we met him. And I just remember a very slight glimpse. I was hardly 6 or 7 years old, and that's what I'll say. And then slowly, was reading Ramayana a lot when I was 4 years old. We were my father used to say, read this and go. And chanting 11 times, he used to say, okay, you do 11 times, just chant, no rounds, nothing, before you sleep, and as soon you get up, just say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. 11 times, just count on your fingers and do. So both my brothers and I used to do that and all. And when just 3.5 years back, I lost my brother. Very, very attached to him. Father, I lost around 11 years back. And then I just could not come out of that thing at 3 years back. And I was just saying, Krishna, help me. And I don't know, Bhagavad Gita came into my life 3.5 years back. And it was nothing saying, like, it gave me all the gyan, all the knowledge that we are the soul, we are not the body. I just say he's a magician. He's a true teacher. Whatever we need, he just gives. And we just need to surrender and we just need to ask.
Yes.
So, and then you all came, like all the spiritual, all the gurus, it is just like a ladder, climbed up and up and up. And now I think so he just needs that true devotion and more connection. And just blessed. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. Shri Krishna Namaste.
Haribo. Thank you so much, Anjuji. So we have comments from Pushpa Priya Chaudhary Mataji. She's saying, when I saw how kind, interesting devotees are, also they have so much knowledge, that time I got interested to join in Krishna consciousness. That's so true. Sangeeta Mataji, Rasmita, Vinita, Rasmita Mataji, Vinita Mataji, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now the final question.
I want to share Mataji.
Okay, sure.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji. And at the age of 15 years, I used to listen Bhagavad Gita Mataji. I don't know what is that, what is the essence in that, but I used to keep in my computer and I used to listen Mataji. Sitting alone in one room, I am going to listen that Bhagavad Gita Mataji.
Wow.
But at the age of 26, I got Keshri Mataji's association in the celebration of Krishnastami in one of the nearest temple. They used to celebrate Mataji. We used to attend there. And from there, I started my journey in Krishna consciousness. And from childhood onwards, my father used to celebrate Krishnastami in the nearby temple in the pot breaking. So we used to distribute prasad and we used to distribute gifts. That means prizes. First, second prizes to everyone. So now also, Mataji, Keshri Mataji give me the opportunity that pot breaking session. Now also we used to distribute the gifts, Mataji.
Wonderful.
Wow.
I thankful to Keshri Mataji and you also.
Krishna Mataji, may I speak, Mataji?
From Keshri Mataji only, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Soumya Mataji. Yes, someone else was
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Mataji, this is Jamuna Ras Mataji.
Jamuna Ras,
Mataji.
Jai Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, I want to share just little. Mataji, I studied from Saraswati Vidya Mandir school, Hindi medium, from Bhopal, and they from 5 years age, they always teach us the Bhagavad Gita lesson daily prayer till 10th class, and they were teaching every day. So at that time we were listening and just like listening, and they took the trip of Mathura and Vrindavan, so I just went and I took the darshan. At that time I did not know, I did not took seriously, but yeah, we were just reading, and they give the gift of this Bhagavad Gita. I have lot of Bhagavad Gita. Now I realized Krishna wanted to connect with him, but I did not know at that time. Then I got married with my Prabhuji, Pandit Prabhu, and then he introduced me with the SCON, and then initially I was I thought how I will do, and I was not bhakta at that time, but with the contact of him, he teach me everything, and he told me lot of things, and I saw in like material nature always also slapped me very heavily, and I saw everything. Yeah, it's truth. Whatever I read from my childhood, I'm looking, and still I'm looking. So at that time, I started reading Bhagavad Gita in 2015, Mataji. I started reading concentrately, and I was understanding. Still, I am understanding, and I have to learn a lot. So it was my experience, Mataji and Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank
you so much for sharing.
We go to the next question. Write an incident in your life when you felt that Krishna took care of you and protected you like a true friend, like he says, Suridam Sarvadehinam. So write an incident where you felt that Krishna took care and protected you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Shyam Priya Devi Dasi.
Yes.
There's a lot of incidents for me because my in-laws, they are very much against me doing Krishna consciousness.
If you can just share one, Mataji, if you may request. Yes.
Yes, sure. So I used to, as I told you, I used to always go to my uncles, and I would always see a lot of devotees doing Sankirtan and doing getting together, eating prashadam. And I used to always think in my mind that wish I had this opportunity that I would call devotees and they can do some Sankirtan in my house in Damodar Maina. So I used to always think, and I used to, oh Krishna, when will I get these days? So then I know on the other side, like in the material side, I had to leave my in-laws and I had to come separate and stay. And then Krishna fulfilled my wish. I had devotees come and they all of a sudden, one Mataji, she called me. I don't even know her, and she called me and she's like, can we come and do some kirtan at your house? And I'm like, wow. So Krishna is listening. And so they all had come, and then kirtan, and we had prashadam. So it was a very big thing for me. So Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Mataji. That's very inspiring. Thank you. Shamala Gopika, would you like to share something?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. I'm so happy to be in association with both of you. So that itself, it's a very biggest gift that Krishna provided to me. So that's what I felt. And so my there are so many instances. But one thing I would want to share is when I was in my college. So when I was studying, so at that time, so around 2002. So I started. That's the time I started 16 rounds of chanting. So after I finished my 16 rounds of chanting, I came and sit for study. So I stayed in a hostel. So that time, when I was sitting in the bed, so on top of my head, so the fan was so fast it is moving, and I didn't realize actually it fall down on my head and it stuck here and fall down. So at that time, so I, by the mercy of Krishna, I practiced whatever it happens immediately, I call Krishna. So when it fall down, I just call Krishna. So I didn't even feel what it fall down on my head. I felt like it is a small stone fall on my head. And after seeing down the fan, I felt it's such a big fan. It fell on my head, and after that, like, I didn't even feel pain. So I didn't even feel pain, and so that time, like, everyone was, so everyone came, and they took me to the doctor, but no blood, no vomiting, nothing.
Wow.
Doctor also checked, and we took X-ray. Everything is fine. So that time I was telling, like, even my mom was so much tensed, and she asked me, like, you are chanting, and why it is happening to you? Why Krishna didn't protect you? I was saying, because Krishna's mercy is there. That's why I got protected. So this is because of the power of holy name. Because I just finished my chanting and came for study and
Very well.
sitting and study. So that's
Jai.
I feel like every moment Krishna is protecting.
Jai, wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for
Hare
sharing.
Krishna. Thank you. Vinita Mataji, you have a very interesting comment. Can you please share with everyone? Vinita Harjani
Yes,
Mataji?
Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we were, my son and me, we were returning from the Europe trip, and then we were stuck at Istanbul airport, and we somehow missed the flight because the time lag was very less, and they were not giving us tickets to go back. And I just sat down and I started chanting.
Hmm.
And we were all wondering, what am I doing? And it really worked. I could actually feel that lady, she just changed her vision, she changed her thoughts, and she just gave us the tickets, and that night only we flew back.
Haribol.
Wow.
Haribol.
Normally it
Congratulations.
doesn't happen. We have to pay
Yes.
money, we have to pay
Yes.
the difference. They didn't ask for anything.
Krishna
Nothing.
inspired. Krishna inspired.
Yeah, because it was the first time, like, my son took me out. He got his
Wonderful.
bonus from the company, and I just wanted to see. So he said, let's go. So, and we belong to a middle class family. So we were just wondering, like, now how do we go back? So I just took that mala and I started there sitting on the floor. People were coming, going. I said, let it be. I know he will come. How he's going to come, I don't know, but he will come.
And he came.
And he actually came.
Yes.
Yes, he came.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Mataji,
sharing that.
3 years in this process, I just don't want to go back anywhere else now.
Haribol.
I've got so much. Yeah, it is amazing. Amazing, beyond words.
Haribol. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Yes.
We left onion garlic in 2 months, Mataji.
Oh,
Full
wow.
family.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all for
Actually,
sharing. Now we
actually
can
was-
open the.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can open the floor for any questions or comments that you may have. And we'd like to acknowledge all of your comments that you made, Mother Flavor and Soumya Mataji, Garima, Santa Mataji. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, any questions
or comments for today?
Otherwise, we can end our session here, and we will continue again tomorrow with the next session of Sri Gita Rahasya.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dasi.
Yes, Mataji.
I actually have 2 questions. So,
Yes.
what is the meaning of pratahar? I don't know much.
Pratyahara? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, yes. Definitely. This is one of the limbs. Ashtanga Yoga has 8 limbs, as we were describing. Pratyahara is one of them.
It's the 5th section of the Ashtanga 8 process, and it actually it's made up of 2 words, prati and ahara. So pratyahara, prati means to go against, and ahara means to bring near. So pratyahar means drawing near with one's awareness. So we are slowly getting, it means slowly getting towards more and more concentration. So basically we are retracting all our senses from the sense objects, and consciously we are closing not just our eyes, but we are closing our mind also to all the external surrounding, and then it empowers us that in that way to not be controlled by the external world. We don't react to things we see, hear, touch, because, and so we close our eyes. But if we close our eyes without pratyahar, without closing our mind or drawing our mind away, we'll feel bored and sometimes fearful. When people close their eyes, sometimes they're fearful, what will happen outside, or who's going to come and hit me maybe. And but if we also draw our mind inside, just like a tortoise takes the limbs inside, that is pratyahar. And then it
That's
helps us to go to the next stage, which is focused concentration on the super soul, dharana. Then goes to dhyana, and then
which
samadhi.
results in samadhi.
Samadhi.
So basically, Srila Prabhupada explained this as Prabhu said, pratyahara is just like the tortoise. If you just tap in front of the tortoise, it immediately draws its limbs inside. So
Becomes a shell.
it becomes just like a shell, a rock rather. So that's what pratyahara is. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much. And then how you were explaining that the association of devotee. So, like devotee, what is the definition of a real devotee? Like everybody says, oh, I'm a devotee. Even the person who's chanting one round says, I'm a devotee. Even the person who chants 16 or 64 rounds says, I'm a devotee. So if you can explain a definition of a devotee, Mataji.
So this is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave 3 explanations of who is a Vaishnava, who is a devotee. So Mahaprabhu said, first time he said that anyone who chants Hare Krishna is a devotee. Anyone who chants Hare Krishna is a devotee.
Even once.
Even once, if they chant sincerely, they are devotee.
Then the second is anyone who practices Krishna consciousness on a regular basis, who associates with other Vaishnavas, he is a devotee. And then the third time, he said, by seeing whom one becomes a devotee, that person is a devotee. So like we have so many examples of people seeing Srila Prabhupada, and just by seeing him, they became devotee.
They become inspired to take up spiritual life. So Mahaprabhu said that the third description of who is a devotee is that just by seeing them, we can become a devotee.
Because they are so much manifesting Krishna's energy that just by in their association, you just want to, you don't know why, but you're just attracted to that energy that Krishna is manifesting through them. And that's what happened with Srila Prabhupada. There are several pastimes. I mean, I'm not sure if we have time to go into those pastimes, but yeah. So there are different, so that means Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya was trying to explain different levels of a devotee. You can say anyone who chants Hare Krishna even once, he's a devotee, but he's not a sadhaka. But one who associates with Vaishnavas, other devotees, and follows and serves them, he is also a devotee, serves their instructions. And there is the Uttamadhikari devotee, seeing whom everyone becomes a devotee.
So hope that answers your question.
Yes, Mataji, but like how in the 10 offenses, like there's one offense that like you don't for a devotee you don't miss I don't know exact word for it, like and the 10 chanting the 10, there's a 10 offenses, and that
Yes.
it is that you don't miss, like you don't talk bad about a Vaishnava like a devotee. So like even how you said, like a person, like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that even a person who he chants once, he's a devotee.
Yes.
But in our daily life, like we are chastising, or we are telling, we are making so many aparadhs, yeah, Vaishnava aparadh. So is that a Vaishnava aparadh too much?
Yes, that's the first offense to the holy name.
To blaspheme
the devotees who've dedicated their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord. That's the first offense. So yes, blaspheming a devotee or criticizing a devotee is not okay. It is not okay. Now, say for example, if you say that, oh, my child, my own son or daughter is a devotee, and does that mean that I'm not allowed to chastise my child? No, you can chastise your child, but do it out of love. Just like how we chastise our child, we chastise them out of love. We don't chastise them out of envy. So when we are chastising other devotees or criticizing other devotees, we must be careful that we are not doing it with envy. And that's a different topic altogether. It's going to take, it's a seminar in itself, how to deal with devotees.
But we should not offend just a devotee, but we should not offend anyone, because it is said not just offending a practicing devotee or a neophyte devotee, but even someone who in future may become a devotee, then that becomes a Vaishnava Prat. So if we offended one person and that person eventually became a devotee, then then we are liable for Vaishnava Prat. So we should be careful to not offend, as much as possible, to not offend anyone. And that means in our consciousness we should not have offend out of envy and things like that. But if we are in a position of authority over that person and have that relationship, we can uh, give them some constructive criticism, only if we
in
have
that
that
authority.
relationship and we are in that position that they are able to take it from us. Otherwise, we just glorify everyone. We just glorify, see the good in others and ignore the bad, unless we are responsible for them. I hope that answers your
So how,
question.
like Mataji said about the children, but what about our husband? Like we're in a grasta, so husband and wife, they always
Yes.
a fight. So is that a Vaishnava Prat too?
Yes.
For sure, definitely. Srila Radhanath Swami Guru Maharaj, he says that when husband and wife fight, it's like children. They say, oh, I'm not going to see your face again tomorrow. I'm not gonna, you always cheat. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. We say that one day, and the next day they're the best of friends. So that's what happens between husband and wife. They're just like children fighting. But nonetheless, we tend to see everyone as devotee, and we forget to see our spouses as devotees. So we must practice. We must practice to see our spouses as devotees, and we must practice that. So it's important. Charity starts at home. So we practice that.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All
Anju,
right.
Anjuji
Hare
had a
Krishna.
question.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
Uh,
I will
yes,
be right
actually-
back. If you may please ask your question to Prabhu, I will be right back.
Yeah. Prabhuji, I wanted to ask about Dhyanam. I have done Vipassana course when I was 26, and then again I did around 2.5 years back. So when we do Dhyanam, can we include the Vipassana technique? Because they also teach us to do nostril, put your Dhyan on full on your breath. And you take, that's the technique what they teaches us over there. So please could you just tell me something about it?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can use those Vipassana techniques, but as long as ultimately we are doing it to focus on hearing the Hare Krishna mantra. Our meditation is on focusing the Hare Krishna mantra, on hearing the Hare Krishna mantra. So when we are chanting and we are trying to hear, the mind goes here and there, so many things, and then suddenly we try to bring it back. But if we do this Vipassana process that you mentioned, what it does is it calms down the mind, it shuts the intelligence off. They say just observe, be an observer of your thoughts. Don't judge your thoughts. Don't intellectualize your thoughts, and just observe. And when we do that and don't judge the mind, then slowly the mind goes from all this haphazard to just a very calm position, because mind is originally in the mode of goodness. It's the intelligence which is in the mode of passion. So when we are doing Vipassana meditation, they say just shut down the intelligence, don't judge your thoughts, just observe,
Yes.
Just be an observer of the thoughts. Good thoughts are coming and going. Bad thoughts are coming and going. Don't dwell on them. And then slowly, because of that, the mind comes at a peaceful state of mode of goodness. And we can use that to then focus it on hearing the Hare Krishna mantra. But if we just calm the mind and not engage it in hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, then it's not of much use.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Faz.
hope that answers your question. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Madhubhashini Mataji, you had a question?
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes, Kirti.
So how in today's class you were mentioning to think about Krishna all the time, with all the work that we do and every single day we have activities and everything. How can we think about Krishna all the time of the day? Because you might be doing something else, but how can you think about Krishna while you're doing that?
Very, very wonderful question. Wonderful question. Very practical. You see, tell me one thing. When you like a particular song, yes, you may be showering and that song comes in your mind. How does that happen?
Because I listen to it.
Exactly. You listen to it, you love it. That's why when you're doing other things, you always remember it. Right? So similarly,
Yes,
if we like what we are hearing about Krishna, if we like Krishna, if we love Krishna, if we train our mind to love Krishna, that means that when we are chanting the holy names, when we are reading the Bhagavad Gita, when we are, associating with devotees, if we love that, then we will try to remember that all the time in the other activities also. It will reflect. We will remember Krishna in the other activities. So that is why Srila Prabhupada said that when we associate with devotees, we must try to associate that in the way that our life depends on it. Srila Prabhupada always gave this, my Prabhu says this. Srila Prabhupada used to always say that how many years has it been that we all are listening to Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita? For me personally, it's been 30 years. For Prabhu, also 30 years. So many of us, it's been more than 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. How many days did Parikshit Maharaj listen to Bhagavatam? 7 days. How many minutes did Arjuna listen to Bhagavad Gita? It's 45 minutes. But look at the effect. And what is the way that, there is a difference between our listening and their listening? What is the difference? They heard as if their life depended on it. It was a, matter of life and death for Maharaj Parikshit. The same was with Arjuna. So the sense of urgency that we may give up our body, we may, this may be the last moment that we are able to breathe. So let us try to make the best use of this particular moment in remembering Krishna. That is the kind of practice, that is the kind of consciousness that we must try to develop. And as in more we try to develop that, we keep practicing that will reflect in all our activities. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Vita, for a beautiful question. Any more questions?
So Mataji, just adding to this question, there's another question for me, that whatever we do during our lifetime, at the end of our life, Krishna says, whatever you remember, you will get in the next life, you will get that birth, like how Bharat Maharaj about the deer. So like supposing a person, he is sick, and he throughout his life he has done chanting and Krishna consciousness, and he's sick and he goes in his last stage, he will go to a coma, like he's just on ventilation, he's on the dead bed, so he cannot even remember Krishna. So how that works, Mataji?
So in the deathbed and he cannot remember Krishna?
Not in the deathbed, at the, how you're like if an old person or if anybody who is in Krishna consciousness and they are very serious in the hospital, like they cannot even remember anything or nothing. They are, so in that case, how will Krishna help us to remember him?
Actually, I was reading today, I don't remember, I'll give you the reference, but said that if my devotee, if someone is my devotee who has practiced Krishna consciousness throughout his life sincerely, and at the time of death he's not able to remember me, Krishna says, I will remember him. If he does not remember me, I will remember him because of the service that he has given. And then I will personally come and rescue him. So it's not so much important that we remember Krishna. It's important that Krishna remembers us as the time of death. And of course, generally, if we remember him, he will remember us. But if we have practiced throughout our life, it's not like, we practiced all throughout and the time of death, that one moment, because of some material situation, we are not able to remember him. And then Krishna says, all right, game over. Too bad you didn't remember me at that time when it mattered. But Krishna will make it happen. Even one time, one disciple of Prabhupada, he was serving in the construction of the Vrindavan temple at that time. And his service was to count the cement bags and make sure that none of the cement bags are stolen by anyone else, because it used to happen all the time. There were so many cement bags, people would just come and steal them. And his whole service was he would sleep on the cement bags, and then every moment he would just wake up and count the bags. Did anyone steal anything, and all of that. And so after a few weeks or months, he went to Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada visited Vrindavan, and he told Prabhupada, I have a question. I'm very much confused and disturbed about it. Prabhupada said, yes. He said, Prabhupada, I've been given the service of counting cement bags. And at the time of death, if I die, only thing right now, I'm in Vrindavan Dham, and the only thing that I will think about is cement bags. Will I become an insect in the cement or something like that? Or I left the Western world and I came to Vrindavan so I can think of Krishna, but I'm just thinking of cement. So what will happen at the time of death if I'm not able to remember Krishna, even while being in Vrindavan Dham? Prabhupada said, since you are serving sincerely in the movement of Lord Chaitanya by counting cement bags and making this construction of Vrindavan temple, if you are not able to remember Krishna, Lord Chaitanya will come into your mind and he will dance like a madman at the time of death in such a way that he will force you to remember him.
Haribo.
So don't worry about it. You continue your service sincerely.
There's one more very beautiful pastime. This is so heart-touching. Whenever Prabhu tells this pastime of Srila Prabhupada, it brings tears to our eyes, And there's one more pastime that was told, that there was, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And after Srila Prabhupada left, in 1977, in November, after Srila Prabhupada left his body, that devotee also somehow or the other, he actually left ISKCON. And he was staying with his mother. He was in his, after a few years, he was in his deathbed, and his old mother was taking care of him because he was afflicted by cancer. And he was, he was a proper disciple, but he had left the movement and he had stopped chanting, had stopped practicing. But when Prabhupada was here, he was, doing a lot of, services and stuff. So then when he was at his deathbed, his old mother was taking care of him. And in the home, that time there was only these two people, the son at the deathbed and the mother. So there was suddenly a knock on the door in the night, one night. And then, there was a knock, and this mother, she came and she opened the door. She saw that there was an elderly, Indian gentleman in saffron clothes. And she, said, yes, who do you want? And that gentleman said, I'm here for your son. So this mother was like a little shocked and said, okay, but, he's not able to, get up. He's about to leave, he's about to die. So then the mother said, the elderly gentleman said, okay, please call your son. I've come to take him. So then she, goes inside and she sees that her son has left his body. And then she notices there was a Bhagavad Gita right next to her son's pillow. And she, turns the page and she actually sees a picture of Srila Prabhupada. And the gentleman at the door was Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada came personally to take his disciple back. So this is a true pastime told by the mother, and
This was, I think,
Sridama
Maharaj.
Sudama Maharaj from South Africa. Is very, very wonderful personality, and it's a very, very true story. So Krishna never forgets even little things we do. And Srila Prabhupada, he has guaranteed that if we are doing our 16 rounds properly, we are engaging in the service of the devotees and, serving devotees, Srila Prabhupada's responsibility is to take us back home, back to Godhead, which he did. So this is Prabhupada's guarantee. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Oh, Mataji, this
Yes.
is Uma from Chicago.
Yes.
Would you like to share your journey into a conference? If you don't mind.
We would definitely love to share that, but it would take a long time, and I'm not sure if everyone has that. Maybe sometime we will share on a private Zoom session like that. Let's keep this on the parking lot. We'd love to share this with all of you.
Maybe on the last day.
Maybe on the last day sometime.
We will definitely share.
Sure. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, we can end here.
All right. Hare Krishna.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, of course.
Mataji, Prabhuji, I have a question. I have heard, I think even yesterday, Prabhu mentioned that Krishna does not interfere with our free will. And at the same time, we always hear that not even a blade of grass moves without the will of Krishna.
Yes.
And also I've heard that when we surrender to Krishna, I don't know what is the level of surrender, but when we take up to Krishna consciousness, Krishna not interfere, but he takes charge of our life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on this basis, I have a question that when we do certain actions, sometimes we make decisions in our life. How do we understand that I'm taking my own decision, or is it that's what Krishna is telling me to take that step? How, there are times when I always get confused and then I look back, and there are times when I'm not able to figure it out that did I do it out of my own will,
Mm-hmm.
or is it what Krishna wanted me to do?
Yeah.
So if you can help me out understand, because this is my biggest confusion in life.
Yes, when we listen to our mind, actually in our heart there are many voices. There is the voice of lust, pride, greed, anger, and then there is the voice of love, the voice of forgiveness and tolerance and all of that, and both of them are fighting. Both these voices are fighting. And then there is the voice of Paramatma, Krishna, within our heart. The problem is all the other voices sound same as the voice of Paramatma, as the voice of Krishna. And so it is valid that we get confused. What should I do? That's why whatever thought we have, we must confirm it by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Whatever thought I had, we must confirm the decision that I'm trying to. Now, there are many voices. I am choosing to hear one voice, one of those. That could be any of the multiple voices that are there. It could be the voice of Krishna. It may not. It may be the voice of other anarthas. It may be the voice of the good person within us. And whoever we choose, we need to see whether is that according to the Shastra, or at least not against Shastra? Then go and confirm it with externally by our spiritual master, because spiritual master is the external representation of Paramatma, or senior devotees or senior Vaishnavas. We should have at least one or two. Not we need not share our mind with everyone. All the devotees,
because that's going to get really confusing.
Right. But one or two, those who we really trust, and we trust that they will not share or take advantage of our, sharing our innermost thoughts, and that they are our well-wishers. We should share with them and see whether it's according to what we are thinking is according to what they are thinking also. So that's Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. And does it also is in accordance with all the other devotees and Vaishnavas and things like that. So we must, before taking, if it's especially an important decision, we must confirm this based on Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Of course, internally we must pray to Krishna. Krishna, please, there are so many voices coming. I'm not pure, but please, you help me. Please help me identify your voice. Inspire me. If we cry, pray, beg, Krishna will, share his voice. He always shares. It's just that he will make us listen and identify his voice. Otherwise, his voice gets dampened by all the other commotion that's going on. And then when we hear that, then we should confirm it externally by Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Then make a decision.
So hope that answers your question, Aditi.
Hare Krishna, does that address your question?
Oh, Shamala Gopika has a question. Is Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga the same?
Yes, most of it is yes, it is the same.
Srila Prabhupada uses it as a synonym also in all of his Bhaktivedanta purports. Whenever Srila Prabhupada is talking about Buddhi Yoga, Prabhupada says Buddhi Yoga is nothing but Krishna consciousness. So yes, Buddhi Yoga is essentially Bhakti Yoga. So, and we would personally like to also thank all the wonderful, wonderful Vaishnavas for all of your care, your concern. If you may have noticed, I did not cough even one time today. So thank you to all the devotees who gave such beautiful, recipes to me. So I've been doing all of that. So thank you all so much for your care and concern. This is what is keeping us alive. So thank you all so much. So if there's no more questions, we can end our session here.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mata.